Hello, Carp. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing so well. I am super stoked to have a conversation with you today. And because I don't think people as they're listening, I mean, I certainly don't share this a ton, but, I was at Penn State in the academic office when you were a student athlete.
Yep, a couple years ago, right? Just
Yeah.
not too long
I mean,
ago.
it feels like it was yesterday, but I
It really
also
does.
know quite a lot of time has passed since then.
Yes.
So tell me, like, since you were at Penn State and you were a student athlete, which you were a volleyball student athlete, what kind of happened after that? Where are you? What are you doing now?
So I played pro for a couple years. I played in Sweden and I played in Greece, which two very different experiences, but I
I'm
love them
sure.
both. And then I kind of dove right into coaching. My first gig was at UVA with Dennis, who's the assistant at Penn State, and then um, I went to Oklahoma at OU, go Sooners, and then I made my way back east to the University of Maryland. And the past year has been wild and crazy for everyone,
Sure.
but I have been living my best life with my two children in Erie, Pennsylvania.
That's amazing. And
A lot of snow. A lot of
oh,
snow.
and that is one of the reasons why I chose to no longer stay in
So,
PA. I
yes.
said, I'm going to move south. This is just something, as someone who was born and raised in South Georgia, snow is just not my favorite thing.
Yeah, you learn when your 3-year-old's eyes light up that it snowed on his birthday at the end of April.
Oh,
You're just kind of white flag, man. Just all right, let's
it's
go.
time. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is amazing. Gosh, that's awesome. And, I talk about like just jump in and say, like, you were a volleyball student athlete at Penn State. And, one of those things, you guys kind of won some national championships while you were there.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Most athletes in the country don't even make it to a tournament, much less
That's
win the
right.
whole thing. So I was pretty lucky. I've got 2 rings. I've got a half a ring more than my husband. Not that we're competitive, but I've got one more Big Ten championship than he does.
Well, and
So
so tell everybody a little bit too, because I had also the honor and privilege to know your husband while he was a student athlete at Penn State. And
yes.
so what sport did he was involved in? I'm not going to say play.
Play. Yeah, I've made that mistake. So he was a wrestler, and he was at the transition into the Kale era.
Yeah.
So he was there right when Kale got there, and there was 40 guys on the team when Kale started, and then it was like 12 when that first year. It was wild. So we've had it's fun. We both got 2 national championships out of the gig out of our 4-year career, but he and I had 2 very different
Mm-hmm.
relationships with our coaches, and I mean training differences. Like, it's wild. There's a thousand ways to skin a cat when it comes to coaching.
Yeah.
So it was
Well, and
fun.
I think that's something too that, as high school athletes are thinking of this whole, I'm going to play at the collegiate level, I'm going to play at Division 1, understanding that the way coaches lead and train is very, very different, no matter like what sport you're in or what institution you go to. And so having some of those conversations when you're on your campus visits is
100.
really important.
Well, I would always ask, as an athlete, when I was going through my recruiting process, I would ask coaches like what their favorite Chick-fil-A sauce was, because I'm not sure I could really trust someone who didn't like Chick-fil-A. Like, but you get, that's also my personality. I
Right.
ask so many questions, and I wanted to get to know them, because this is 4 years of your life away from home. Like, this is going to be your home for
Yeah.
your home away from home. And I wanted to make sure I was making that right decision with the right people.
Yeah.
And so that was, yeah, all the questions, and coaches don't get sick of it. It makes for great stories later on.
Oh, it so does. And I always say too, when I was on the academic side, like recruits were always coming in my door and I loved asking them questions. And I always tell current high school student athletes, one of the things I always did before a student walked in was look at their social media accounts, because it gave me something. Number one, I could check out their social media accounts. And if
Oh
there
yeah.
was something interesting we needed to talk about as, a staff and me share with the coaching staff, that was something I wanted to know. But then I also did that so that I could find something that I knew they were interested in outside of their sport.
Yeah, I love that. So I was pre-social media, actually.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord, I was pre-social media.
So different right now.
But it's funny. So I was I'm a minority in how my recruiting process started, and I was, 8th grade and earlier looking into, I haven't grown since the 7th grade. So maybe they thought I was going to grow more, but surprise, I took after my mom. But
well, and as a volleyball player though, tell everybody, I mean, I think a lot of people confuse that sometimes volleyball players all need to be like 6 feet tall.
No.
So and that's not the case for you.
I was 5'6", but I could touch the rim. I was I had strengths in other places in my body. So height was not my thing, but I made up for it with speed and jumpness.
Yeah, sure. So, you're vertical. We'll say you're vertical. How about that?
There you go. Yeah. So, but I do. Okay. So I remember my first ever email to a coach.
Oh, okay.
I had to use my Casey Sis 5. My sister's name is Casey. So like, this was like my screen name, really dating myself here. But shout out to Mike Shaw, who is now at North Carolina, but he was the assistant at Penn State when I was being recruited. So I'm an 8th grader, and I like, oh my gosh, the amount of exclamation points. I will go through this every year, because how he answered all of my questions it was just phenomenal. So I literally would use that base of his email for when I became a coach later on. That is how I asked my questions to kids. But oh my goodness, like I had smiley faces everywhere. I mean, my personality is bursting.
I don't see anything different when you put a bunch of smiley faces. I'm like, oh, this is just Carp having a normal conversation.
Right. As a 12-year-old thinking like, how much, I literally asked, how much snow do you guys get there? I'm a little nervous.
I love that question actually, because I think that's so relevant. I mean, that's a little bit of relevancy of saying, hey, could you tell me a little bit about, like, what's the weather like? What should I expect? Especially if it's someone like maybe they live in Texas and they're looking at a school in the Northeast or even the Midwest. Like, that's really important information to know.
I even asked I thought a Nittany Lion was a mythical creature. Like,
that's amazing.
I knew nothing. Like, I mean, I knew conferences. I knew it was in the Big Ten. They honestly, I mean, 8th grade. So this is like 2005-ish. So they've only won one national championship, and that was, 6 years prior to that. And so I don't know if they were still rebuilding or who was getting recruited, between me and, whoever was the class of 2005. Like,
right.
It was a hilarious email that a lot of questions were asked.
Yeah. And I think that's something that parents can really glean from too. As you think about it, you're the one that was like having that conversation with the coach. Like, it wasn't your mom. And, and so now I think, having parents teach their kids, okay, here's how you formulate the email. Here's the questions you should ask. And like coaching them literally through the conversations they should have makes a really big difference, especially you've been on the coaching side of things too.
Absolutely. So because now with the rules, you can't talk to any 8th graders anymore, which is, in my opinion, a great thing. Yeah. Like, I didn't need to be talking to any coaches, even if it was just playful and hilarious. Like, I do not think your 8th graders need to be thinking about what they want to do when they grow up, unless it's walking dogs and playing with, food testing, whatever, being a veterinarian, whatever you wanted to be when you were 12. Sure. So, because it is a little later, you do have a shortened period of getting to know people and making relationships. So the phone calls and the emails, they do count. Every single one of them counts. So it's trying to get a lot of information in a very condensed, especially, that 1%, that top tier of kids, they already have it, they've got it where they know they're top 10 already, just purely on location, or, maybe they don't want to go too far from home, or maybe they want to get away from home, or whatever it is, academics, they have their major. So it's with everybody really, some coaches are willing to wait and really making sure that that girl is the right fit for their school.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's got a different technique and way of doing things. But
well, and I think that's really important for that you just said that, is that every coach is different, even in like the aspect of how they recruit, and the conversations that you have with one assistant coach may be completely different than the conversations that you have with another assistant coach, because of just the fact of their personalities, how they build relationships. And, knowing that as you kind of move forward into it is really important.
Absolutely. And then you can't get too caught up on the assistants. Like, I mean, I was at Oklahoma for 1 year, and I was talking to girls that were freshmen and sophomores in high school. I didn't really get to coach the kids I recruited until I got to Maryland, because I was there for over 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's so tough. It's a tough thing, especially, I mean, it's tough to be an assistant and have a family. That's a bottom line, because you do so much with recruiting, with traveling, with everything. So with that aside, you got to know the head coach, and you got to fall in love with the school, and you got to fall in love with the type of girls that are in the program, because those types of girls are the types of girls that coach recruits. And if you don't fit, it probably won't work out. Like, it's really how it goes. It's that easy, but you still got to do your homework to make sure that that's the right spot. And
hearing you say that is very important. And we have a lot of parents that listen to the show, and that is something they need to also sit down and have a conversation with their student, is saying, like, are you right for this program? Do you feel like you fit within it? And we're checking all the boxes. We're not just checking like the athlete side of things. Like, we're having the conversation of, okay, academics, what is life after sport going to be like? Is that something, if I go to this school, how's that going to impact me moving forward? Nutrition, mental training, strength and conditioning, the athletic trainers, like all of these things are such a big package of like how students make these decisions.
Oh, 100%. And, at every school that I've worked with, we would have our recruits meet with our AD even, because
I love that.
Some parents want to know where the athletic department's going and what their visions are, and if there's going to be any new buildings or any new this, but mainly it's, top down, right? It starts from the AD. If the AD doesn't have the same visions as the coaches, and the coaches might be leaving, or, it is so important to have that whole package. And it's tough to find.
Yeah.
Because like you said, people are different. It's the most beautiful thing about humanity. Thank God we're not all the same.
Right.
So you have to figure out, maybe weather isn't as important to you as a vision of an athletic department. Right. So maybe, okay, I can handle some snow, or I can handle the 112 degree summer days on campus. But I really liked what he said about how he cares for his athletes and how he goes to games. And that is so cool. It's a fun balance that you really have to prioritize what means the most to you for your future.
Yeah. So how did you do that? I mean, we're talking quite a few years ago, but you going through that decision-making process, why did you decide on Penn State?
Honestly, I mean, there's no easy way to get there. Like, it's a hot mess to fly in, to drive in, like, and I was driving distance. It took me 5 hours I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So it was, oh my gosh, my parents were like, oh, we're on the side of a mountain. And
so
there's
true.
No rain. Like, it's wild, right? So location, I'm more of I'm a mountain girl over a beach girl, if you're talking about vacation. But I fit. I belonged. Yes. Like, I stepped on campus. I had a conversation with coach. I'm like, this guy's going to get me. And he knew when I was 13, he told me, he was like, you're going to come play for me. And I was like, no, you don't even know me. He goes, no, I know you, you're going to play for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, sure, whatever. And of course, like that, I always compared, I really thought I wanted to go to Texas, and I do not look good in orange. So thank you, Jesus. I didn't go there.
Yeah. That blue and white fit a little better.
It really did. But I walked onto that campus and man, let me tell you, Austin sells itself.
Yeah.
And there was some good looking divers. I was like, oh my gosh, I could see myself here. And then it was just like, no, I can't. Like,
Yeah.
it seems forced. Nothing's really genuine.
Mhm.
Like, I'm trying to be myself and no one's laughing. I'm funny. Like,
Oh, yes. I totally agree on that one. You were
it was
funny.
tough. So I was like, this isn't not my kind of party. I don't really think this is me.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
wasn't. And that's
yeah.
okay.
It's totally fine. And, that's the number one thing. When I was in meetings with parents and we would go through academics, we go through what the school had to offer, what the kid wanted to do when they finished playing their sport. I never asked a kid what their major was, like what they wanted to major in, because I knew we could get them wherever they needed to be as long as I knew what they were passionate about. But I always told the parents when we finished, I said, listen, we obviously want you here. That's the reason why you're here. We want you here. But at the end of the day, you've got to weigh your pros and cons, but you always have to go with your gut. You are going to know where you belong.
Well, and that's funny that you say that, because when I was coaching, I would always tell people, I'm like, you don't get to choose. The school's going to pick you. The program's going to pick you because it's here. And you'll, like you said, you're going to know, but go visit everywhere, go try it out. Let it marinate in your mouth for a little bit, see how it feels. And at the end of the day, you're just going to fit somewhere.
That's right.
It's like your mold, your person, your personality, what you want to do for the rest of your life, you're going to fit somewhere. And that is the most important thing. So like, I would always tell girls, like, be yourself, because if you're not, then how do you know if you're like them? Or if,
that's so important of you saying that, because right now, I mean, kids nowadays are dealing with TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, and everything's out there. And, obviously we're in a day and age now with name, image, and likeness. And, really truly telling students, be yourself. Like
100%.
Be who you were created to be, because when you step on that campus, when you step on and we have those meetings and with that team, you are going to know if you belong.
100%. It is. So it's a waste of time. Life's too short to be anything but you. That's right. If they don't like you, then you move on. You go somewhere else. It's that beautiful.
Yeah. And I think too, when you're talking about that, like moving on, a lot of times our students have like these big dreams and aspirations of, I'm going to play Division I. And when they hear that term, they always think Power 5. I'm going to play Division I and Power 5. But you, from your experience playing women's volleyball, you learned that women's volleyball is actually one of our head count sports. So if you play at a small Division I institution, it's either an all or nothing. You're either going to get a full ride or you're going to be a walk-on.
Yeah.
And we have to start thinking of it in that manner, especially like as parents leading their students through this process, because, sometimes you might not be the right fit for that Power 5 school, but that mid-major school,
needs somebody like you.
Needs somebody like you. And that might be where you belong. That's 100%. Yeah.
Oh. It's there's over 300 Division I volleyball programs in the country. Over 300.
And that's women's volleyball. I mean, like that. Yes. And I mean, the roster size, correct me if I'm wrong, for women's volleyball is between like 15 and 20. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the chances are really, really high. Now, I will give the disclaimer. I actually don't know off the top of my head what the count in scholarships. Do you know what that is for?
It's 12.
It's 12.
I mean, and that's fully funded. So there are some schools that only have 9.
Right.
But it is, like you said, it's an all or nothing thing.
All or nothing. And so if you think about it and looking at some of these fully funded small Division I institutions, there is still an opportunity for you to play your sport, get your degree, find your passion. And it's not to say, like you mentioned that you played internationally pro for a little bit. There are tons of girls who come from mid-major schools who still end up playing pro.
Oh yeah.
From, once they graduate.
Absolutely. My 2 roommates in Sweden were from Hawaii Hilo, and you and I out in Iowa.
That's a perfect example. Yeah.
all right, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's something parents, as you are thinking about this process, you're going through that, you're trying to piece all the things together. This is just another piece of the puzzle to put in your back pocket and say, okay, here's what we're looking for. Here's what we're moving forward. And while coaches aren't talking to eighth graders anymore, they're not calling freshmen, you still, as a high school student athlete, you still need to start this process your ninth grade year. You need to
Sure.
start making your list. You need to start saying, here's my dream. This is what my vision is. But knowing that vision is going to change.
For sure. And being willing and able to adapt.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
and guess what? Injuries happen.
Yep.
And things happen where, the dream might go to Penn State, but they actually don't have room for you.
That's right.
I mean, come on. My sister played Division III, and same schedule, same hours.
That's right.
It is what you make of it.
Oh,
and
so
there are so many levels and so many opportunities. But yeah, starting your freshman year, even send the coach some stuff. If you have a top 10 of your dream schools of, I want to go here, and if this doesn't work out, I want to go here, and I like the colors in this sport, I like the mascot at this school, like all the above, like do it up. It's contact the coach, put them on the radar. Right. They love to hear from you.
Well, and most institutions have a prospective student athlete form on their website. So even, ninth grade parents and 10th graders, if you guys are listening, you can hop on and say okay, prospective student athlete form, fill that out. Okay, done for this year. Next year, fill it out again.
Oh yeah.
Continue to let the coaches know I am still interested. Yeah.
Because it's, we don't want to wait as if I'm still coaching, coaches don't want to waste your time, just like you wouldn't want to waste theirs. So if you're interested in somewhere, let them know.
Right.
And the coaches will timely manner. I'm sorry that it's going to take a couple years, but it'll happen where they're going to say either yes or no.
That's right.
Or, hey, it might be a maybe.
Yeah.
It could.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Somebody that they're recruiting, go somewhere else. Guess what?
Right.
I mean, yeah, you might not be that first, their first option, but maybe that girl emailed them sooner. Right. You never know. You don't know. So just send it. Send the email.
Yeah. And,
maybe not the DMs, but send the emails.
Send an email. I love that too, because I think a lot of times people are sending those DMs, sending the messages on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And a nice email, we have transitioned from where I used to tell people, write the letter. And now we're okay, send the email. So
honestly, as a coach, I got Christmas cards from people that I never knew.
Oh, I love that.
I kind of do too. But again, my personality, you gotta know. You gotta know.
Yeah, you gotta know your audience. And I think that's really, really important too, because I think I would probably send you a Christmas card if I was going through, the recruiting process, or a letter, a handwritten thank you note after the visit, all of these kind of things.
100% send the thank you note.
Yeah.
It goes a long way.
It goes.
Have you ever read the book Legacy?
No.
It's about the All Blacks out of New Zealand, the rugby team. And there is a chapter, I'm pretty sure this is a PG thing, so I'm going to say the chapter is called No Jerks.
Okay.
Yes, it's not the actual name of
that's okay.
The chapter. But so no jerks. Don't be a jerk. Yeah. Guess what? Not being a jerk means send a thank you note.
That's right.
Not being a jerk means be nice to your mom at a tournament. We see that. Oh my gosh, we see that. Oh. I will never forget this. It was my senior year of high school, and I was walking alongside Russ, the coach at Penn State, and I was hurt. So we were just talking, getting in June, taking first session of summer, can't wait to get to college. And I was like, who are you looking at? He's like, I've got 5 girls here. I was like, oh, it's right over here. This court right here. What jersey number is she? And it was about to start. The match was about to start. And this girl runs over from the bench to the stands. and literally throws this orange Gatorade at her assuming mother. Said, "Mom, I told you I wanted the blue," and sprinted back to the bench. And all of a sudden I looked beside me and he was gone. I was like, "Well, like, what happened? I thought we were going to watch this match." He goes, "Do you see that girl? If she talks to her mom like that, she's going to talk to me like that. I ain't got time for that." Literally wrote her off right there. So student athletes that are listening to this, please be nice to your moms and dads, but please, please, please be nice to your parents, because we see it and we don't like it when you're mean. Especially we have kids. We don't like it. So just be nice.
And I don't think a lot of people know that. We always talk a lot about like how much parents are involved, how much your family is involved in the recruiting process, but truly too, the actions that are happening off of the court are just as important as the ones that are happening on the court.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad to see some of that happen, but maybe there's another school willing to take that.
That's right. Yeah. So Carp, the podcast is called Confessions from the Sidelines. I know that you've had a lot of time to stand on the sidelines, multiple sporting events, and as a player. What has been your favorite memory from standing on the sidelines?
It's tough. Winning 2 national championships is really special. Like, hands down, best game, best night, best day. Like, everything about those 2 full days of winning is really great. But this is really, it's a favorite for a different reason.
Okay.
So my last game ever played collegiately, we were in Louisville playing in the Final Four against Oregon, and Micah Hancock, who is an Olympian, going to Tokyo this year, she went down and rolled her ankle. And I was a setter 2 years previously, when we won in Kansas City. So I came in, we ended up winning that set, like, it was awesome. And then she came back, and it was hard to watch because she was still pretty hurt.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know she is one of the most competitive human beings I have ever met in my whole life. And to be on that sideline while I saw my teammate still visibly hurt and getting picked on, and I went up to coach and I was like, "Hey, like, I can do this for you. I can. I've done it before. I can do it again. Like, give her a break." And he looked at me and he said, "Sorry, Sparky, not today." And I was like, I broke. It hurt so bad, but because of that, I went from a starter my freshman year, a starter my sophomore year, a role player, and then as a senior, a bench player.
Yeah.
Not really the track that you think you have in your college career, but because of that whole experience, and especially how that ended, I can relate to every single girl I ever coached. I know how it is to be benched. I know how it is to fight for a spot. I know how it is to, well, maybe this is not everybody, lose to an Olympian for a spot. Like, I mean, she was clearly better than something. So it was one of those life-changing moments that I will always be grateful for. And as a coach, now I get why he did it.
Yeah.
Like, she needed that for the championship that she won the next year. She needed to learn about different things, and so I didn't put my senior back in, but an Olympian, needed to learn some things. It was all about, but it was probably the best lesson ever learned in my career on the sideline.
I love that so much. And mainly because, you did experience all of that. You go in your freshman year, you're thinking, oh, I'm probably not going to be a starter. And then you win the starting spot, but then just goes down the other way.
Yep. Yep.
But in the end, looking back, it's some of the most valuable lessons we learn.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Carp, thank you so much for being here. It was such an honor to have a conversation with you today.
This was so fun. Thanks for being a friend.